Good afternoon. We are at the sidelines of a conference that is being held by IPAI, and in fact with me is Mr. Vivek Pattanayak, who has at one point of time he was the Indian representative to the ICAO. He has also been the Joint Secretary of the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India. He served on the board of Air India indeed. So we'd like to know, Mr. Pattanayak, given the fact that Air India is now in financial distress, there's no doubt each of the other airlines are also in financial distress, no matter how well they claim to manage themselves. What is really the cause of the financial distress all across the board, sir? Why have airlines not been able to manage themselves well? Why has this sector not been able to be regulated? Anyone could have come up and set up one or two two aircrafts and run an airline. And now that everybody is in financial distress, there's no one to blame really. There's no one who regulated the sector well. So what is the real cause behind this?
Thank you for this question. One must understand the evolution and the cycle of development. There was a time when aviation sector was totally under the government control. Not only in India, the rest of the world, even in the United States. But United States and the Western world, they liberalized to start with. Even after liberalization, they recognized some of their own airlines as their national airlines, not always protect. In India, things were different in a sense. We had Air India was nationalized, airport was under control of the government. Later, and the regulator, of course, was government body. Later, of course, there was International Airport Authority was created, it was a statutory body. The National Airport Authority was created. Then Vayudut as a separate company was promoted with the share capital of both Air India and Indian Airlines. Then later, there was demand for opening up the sky. In other words, allowing foreign airlines to take traffic out of India. A lot of hard negotiation had to be done. India was not initially supporting open sky. But the global trend took us to liberalize the sky. When you liberalize the sky for foreign airlines, there are also private airlines from within India who are also willing to take advantage of the liberalization. And I must say, in the last 5 years or so, there has been a remarkable number of increase of such airlines in India and elsewhere also. When there is a deregulation, or you can say opening of market, the flow of supply increases. And when it happens, then some people in the process of competition die out. So this is one of the factors which is inevitably come with opening of market liberalization. At the same time, another factor which comes into play is the oil. Oil price actually denuded the balance sheets of airlines substantially, particularly in the year 2008, when there was an abnormal rise of oil price, going to $150 a barrel. Fortunately, it has come down. Then the labor laws are such that hire and fire is not so simple. The Jet Airways wanted to fire, you remember last year, and he couldn't. Air India wanted to give compulsory leave to people for 1 year or so. He couldn't do it. I mean, the chairman couldn't do it. In other countries, Western countries in particular, they do it, and there are ways of absorbing the surplus labor somehow or other. But in India, it's politically not acceptable, it doesn't happen. So this is the reason, this is one of the reasons as to why Air India, Indian Airlines, in effect. And then you shouldn't forget that Air India has acquired a lot of aircraft, the depreciation cost, the interest burden, and then unless you go on a remunerative routes, you can generate good money. There's competition remuneration route, all these factors.
So the fact that Air India and Indian Airlines were merged were to give some kind of common strengths, exploit their common strengths, and but then why has this come about that nothing really has happened People are still running different departments in their own different ways. Air India still Air India mindset. Indian Airlines still looks the other way.
But this particular attempt was made by Rajiv Gandhi when he was Prime Minister. He wanted merger of Air India and Indian Airlines, and in fact I was the chairman of a group to study how to merge the resources. I mean, both the companies. At that stage, we didn't recommend, frankly speaking. I mean, I didn't recommend to merge. On the contrary, I said that there will be merging of interests. I mean, in the sense there can be better cooperation between both the airlines in terms of use of the facilities, and or in terms of using the personnel, or in terms of using the routes. But Air India has grown and Indian Airlines has grown. Why do you artificially merge? Well, that was in 1986, 87. 20 years have passed. Since then, a lot of things have happened. You can make another attempt, and they have an attempt. It will take time to complete merger. In the meantime, unfortunately, both the airlines, or one airline, have been affected by the global economic crisis, affected by the oil price, affected by their own acquisitions, bank loans. In addition, as I told you, the stringent labor laws and political interference in these matters. So, this is the reason as to why these things have come up. You can't blame the chief executive. And there is always a danger of a big company remaining under governmental control. The managing director of Air India is supposed to sit in Mumbai. You just check out his tour diary. How many days he spends in Bombay, and how many days in Delhi, and how many days in Ministry of Civil Aviation. You can't run an organization by spending all your time elsewhere. So, but in the private sector, these things are not there. For instance, our chairman of Jet Airways,
Right.
he sits in London. He has authorized Mr. Saroj Datta, executive director. I know him very well. He was formerly in Air India. He runs it. There are no interferences on day-to-day matter, who has to be transferred where, who has to be posted where. He does it himself. So in the government sector, these are the problems. That is the reason as to why people encourage privatization.